Okay, last question. I'm going to start with Charity first. um, what about the neurodivergent spouse who likes to overspend on their special interest, where there's not teamwork? This person said, I live in a situation where we constantly have we do not have money for the things that I or the children want. But anytime we need money for his interest or his hobbies, suddenly there is money. And then the other one is sometimes some individuals will say, I'm doing this as a collection because I'm going to invest in it and then I'm going to sell it and somehow make money off of this interest. So, Charity, I think y'all have lived that a little bit. So, what was a solution? Creative problem solving.
Um, yeah, we I'm remembering all the guitars. Um, yeah, we have definitely lived those experiences. I mean, before we had children, it was to a point of, overdrafting and some major financial um impacts from it. So I think, as far as if it's causing issues there, that was a lot of conversations from that. Um, but, you know, uh, putting it in front of the kids, uh, that is something that, we've worked through at different points. Um, I mean, now he is at a point where the items that come in do, end up cycling. Like there are just as many boxes going out as there are boxes coming in. So that there is hope. The collections don't have to eternally grow and never move. Um but yeah, I mean, for us it's been a lot of communicating and talking through what the impacts are, and and saying, okay, well, let's take a look at this, and okay, well, this is really important to you, and you having, these things for you to look at and for you to enjoy and to help you regulate, that's really important. But you know our children love Legos. And the thing that's really important that would mean the world to them right now would be for us to make a family trip to Legoland. So, we need to cut back on something so that we can do that. Um, you know, it, it's been a lot of just relating it in those ways of, yes, this is what's really important to you, and this is what helps you regulate, and this is what brings you joy. But let's also look at it in the kids' perspective, like the theater classes. You can see how much joy it brings them. You can see that they're growing as a person when they're in them. Like having to focus on all of those different aspects and bring all those different aspects to light verbally. That it's not that he's blind to them, but maybe, just in the purchasing moment, he's looking at the things that bring him joy and not necessarily seeing like those same attributes that the others in the family have.
Well, I got some thoughts though when you're done.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, good. You've had some thoughts since the question came to me. So go for it.
Well, the jokester in me is like comparing the $4.99 diecast to the four-figure trip to Legoland seems not like a unilateral choice. But what you said, and I think it, to me, if it's to give advice on how to get better at it, it's the same way I try to help individuals understand empathy, which to me is the kind of like bridge. And so something that you did a really good job of early on, and again, like I feel it's been night and day since the diagnosis, because the diagnosis made me aware of so many things. But something that's really helped me, as it's helped many with the empathy piece of the kind of like bridge, is helping me understand that the way the kids see theater is kind of like how I appreciate the gym. So gym to me is like therapy. Like I feel really close to God when I'm at the gym. I feel very self-aware in every positive way. And there's a lot of value in going to the gym for me from a mental health standpoint. And you building the kind of like bridges of, well, the kids going to the theater and spending an hour and a half there every Saturday is kind of like you spending time at the gym. Would you be upset if we took the gym away from you and said, because I said so? Would you be upset if we took the gym away from you because we didn't have the budget? Or would you go, no, if the gym's important, we can find here, here, and here. Well, if we can do that here, here, and here, then why can't we do it here, here, and here? And so I feel like building those kind of like bridges so that I can understand and see it through their lens in a way that makes sense to me was super helpful from the emotional standpoint. I think from a functional standpoint, building boundaries. So like even for the collections that I have and the special interests, I have cases and wall space. And once those cases are filled, if I want something new, I have to sell something. And if that wall space is filled and I want something else, then I have to sell something for that wall space. And I feel like that's a healthy check and balance because it's gotten to us where we've been for probably the past 3 years where the same money recycles itself. You know, I'll sell a special interest item for $75 and then I'll buy 2 special item interests for $30. And it's the same money. So we're not going crazy with it. But there's also those checks and balances of if you want this, great. What are you selling? And you're smiling. What are you smiling about?
Just think about all the hockey equipment.
Oh, well, that's
and the skates and the Thanksgiving NASCAR purchases. But yes, in the past few years, I mean, but he's done more things within his special interest that make money. Like, for example, you switched from playing more hockey to now reffing more hockey. So that in turn is then allowing for him to focus more on the hockey equipment and to justify the higher
because then the equipment becomes a write-off. Whereas before, if it was just leisure, it was some cost, but now it's a write-off because
so I mean, but overall, like your mindset of it, I think has changed a lot.
Well, we have a way different issue getting this man to spend money, even if it is something that he really likes. I guess I don't know. I used to kid about it, but I think it's true. I think you collect money. So like when the money is in savings and it's a certain number, you can't take the money out. So I remember you wanted this guitar. We were dating and we went to this store 3 or 4 times and he would ask the person to pull it down. He would play it. And he was like, oh, I love it. This is the best. And then it would go back up on the thing. And then he'd talk about incessantly, I want to get that guitar. It's so good. I really need it. My other guitar, it goes out of tune. We go up the neck. I was like, you have the money. Go and buy it, please. So one of the things we had to do for vacation is I had to create a vacation account. Because if money went into our normal savings and you saw the money going, even though we put 1,000 or 2 in for vacation, it couldn't come out. But it was now part of the tax. And you had a hard time getting rid of, I don't know if you ever actually did. Your response was always funny to me in the 20s when you were in your 20s. I was like, why can't you bought this new guitar to replace this other guitar because it goes out of tune when it goes up the neck? And what would you always say to me? What would you always say to me?
So if I got in a music video and it was raining, I would have a guitar play in the rain.
Even though he wasn't in a band. And the video was probably not happened. That is what I heard. Why do we have this guitar you can't play that goes out of tune? And it was always because I need my rain guitar.
Like, does he still have the guitar?
Do we? Or did we give it to a young lad?
We gave that one away.
But I think it's because we were moving to Georgia and that was a different thing. We were trying to not rent a car. See, it was a money thing. We were not going to rent a U-Haul.
There you
to
go.
come to Georgia.
I was gonna say because maybe he was gonna be in a music video that was in the rain.
That's true.
You know.
It fulfilled its purpose.
It's funny. I'm to categorize it in big generalities, right? Jeremy will spend money on physical things, but not experiences.
Yeah.
Experiences that even something that is, right in his wheelhouse, like super special interest. That's where I have to sit there and go, like, but you can, like, you can go and do this thing that you're saying you really, really, really want to do. But because it's an experience and it's not something he can physically hold, he doesn't want to do it.
Same
And
with him. He was going to Vegas. Who was coming to Vegas that you weren't going to spend the money on?
It was the G3 tour with
Oh,
Satch,
yep.
Eric Johnson.
He's like, hey, guess what? When I'm at work in Vegas, they're coming to town. It's like, you should go. I don't want to spend the money. You have enough money. Yeah, it would be really great to go. You should go.
We are literally having this conversation because I'm going to Nashville for a work trip, and there's a massive hockey tournament in Nashville that butts up against it that I could probably work. And I'm like, I think I should. And she's like, do it. And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you should do it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Because it could be he would have to pay for a hotel room.
But I get paid twice as much just to ref, though. And like that's the thing. Like,
and
statistically, it makes sense. You get the experience and the money, but there's just something about it.
Do it.
I don't know.
Just do it, right? But because it's an experience, it's just not some. So that's why vacations and trips. It is so hard to mentally get past but I have nothing in the end. Like I don't have a physical thing I can hold in the end. So to me, I would rather spend that amount of money on a physical thing, which perhaps was a family thing because you guys like never went on trips. You never did anything.
We never had vacations.
And what did your parents do as soon as they retired?
Oh, they went on vacations.
They went on vacations.
Maybe I'm the problem. It's all me.
Like you left the house and then suddenly they went on vacation.
Having a Swiftie moment. I'm the problem. It's me.
Well, as we kind of transition, we're closing up, are always fun to have on. You have contributed a chapter to Uniquely Us, specifically on parenting, and you're really focusing it on the fruits of the spirit. So I got it up, Galatians 5:22-23. That's why I'm calling it fruit-filled parenting. You took a very basic principle, but it's very difficult to live out, especially as a co-parenting team to parenting kids. And so the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. I like forbearance better. Kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. So I purposely didn't want to talk too much about the chapter because I want people to buy the book. And Jeremy, and maybe Jeremy and Charity, y'all are going to contribute a blog on this as a little precursor. So tell us a little bit about the chapter that you wrote and kind of the why you chose the fruit of the spirit. Like, talk about the process of writing the chapter.
Yeah, I feel like the older I get, the simpler things need to be. I don't know how else to put it. There's so much chaos in our house. The kids are very autistic. I'm very autistic. Everything's crazy. And so trying to figure things out can be difficult, especially when you're emotional. And what I love about the fruits of the spirit, and it may just be because I grew up during the What Would Jesus Do bracelet era, where it's like, oh, I'm getting upset. What would Jesus do? Okay. The fruits of the spirit to me is a very easy roadmap on how to get it right. It's the lens by
I mean, it's a really good self-check.
And I think that's, to me, that's the theme of this podcast is what can we do that influences them for the outcome that we would like? And what better place to start than with yourself? And so to that point, it's a great template of self-check. Like, am I coming at this lovingly? Is it going to end in a way that is joyful, even if it's correction? Is it going to be a scenario where I'm keeping the peace? Like, it's almost like a checklist of, if I keep these things in mind, how now will I act? Whereas I think a lot of, and I won't say just autistics, because I think everyone does it, but a lot of the autistics we work with are really good after they do the thing and go, that's should have done that. But when you get to that point, the damage is kind of already done. And so instead of back ending, it's sort of preloading and saying, like, if you can get these things ingrained in your heart, and if this is the lens by which you look at, I mean, not just your parenting, but all relationships, but definitely your relationship with your kids, so many things are going to fall into place. That was my thought process as I contributed to it.
Yeah. I think my viewpoint gets to be a little different because I'm really coming at parenting from the nurturer perspective. So each one of each one of the fruits, as you're parenting in that light. So parenting peace, parenting in peace, right? It just takes it takes you to another place to be able to look at each one of those individually and really say to yourself, am I doing this? I mean, if you read through it, it's definitely not a yes, we check mark these all the time and we're great at it. You'll find points where we have to say, like, oh yeah, this is one that I'm working on a regular basis. Because yeah,
My daughter's so much like me. She is such a trigger sometimes. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. But I think one of the things, just to say, I think one of the things that we wanted to really put into the chapter was to make sure that we had the perspective from both of us.
Yeah.
And so even in looking through the fruits of the spirit, as as how it pertains to parenting our kids, our viewpoints are so different. The way you looked at some of them versus the way I look at some of them from the nurturing point of view, they really are entirely different. So I think that's another good aspect of the chapter, I think.
I think it's one of the better aspects of the chapter because it shows that, kind of almost ending the podcast the way it started, sort of like the just the guys about neurodiversity. It's, we can have different perspectives on different things, but because we are a team, because we are a unified front for the betterment of the kids and for the betterment of the family, even if we do have different perspectives, we're still going for the same outcome. And with the gospel being the great guide, the great mediator, we tend to, not always, but we tend to, well, I will say always, we always come out better going through the lens of the fruit of the spirit than if we didn't, because we're always bringing Christ into that. And there's just such a level of wisdom and discernment when the spirit's involved than when not. And so that's one of the things that when we were proofreading the chapter and I got to see your perspective, I was like, we're so different sometimes, but yet we come to a similar outcome, which I think is also beautiful because it affirms the unifiedness that we are as a couple, but it also shows that I'm still an individual and you're still an individual.
Yeah, because when the two becoming one does not mean you give up your personhood in your marriage. I'm going to ask you a question in the moment about the Brown book, Embracing the Autism Journey book that we just got out last 2023 about parenting and maybe what people might get from that. But as you were talking, the fruit of the spirit, self-control is kind of the anchor of them all, but it really has to start with love. And as we're sitting here, like 1 Corinthians 13 is coming to my mind, though I speak with the tongue of men and angels and have not love, I am a sounding brass or a gonging cymbal. And if I give my body to be burned, but I have not love, I am nothing. And so I think sometimes, especially the neurodivergent parents, sometimes when they're not making that connection, it's like, I give all this money and I do all these things and nobody appreciates all the things I'm doing and all the money I'm contributing, but the missing piece is love. the missing piece is that spirit of love, that your children know that they are loved. And I think that might be one of the only cases to use always, that always fits. That always, when we go through scripture and invite the spirit in, are we going to get to a better place? So the book that they've been talking about is Uniquely Us, which is coming out. And but we wrote a book specifically about our family, and Dan's contribution is kind of lessons learned and hindsight. Our two girls contribute to it. One of the girls writes from having a parent on the spectrum. So if you're recommending the Embracing the Autism Spectrum book, what kind of parenting insights might be in that book?
Wow, there might be some good ones.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fun.
Media and marketing.
He's
a marketer.
It might be okay. Well, a lot of it is, I think for the quickest thing to mind, having to merge the question and remember the book, is remember or treat, and Jeremy spoke to this earlier, remember your children are human. And just because
you wouldn't think you'd have to say that, but then again, there's these little packets you have to be told not to eat. So
Yes.
Right.
they're just because they're little doesn't mean they're a robot or some other
AI.
Something without a will, without a preference, without a perspective, and discounting that perspective at even the youngest of age. I was walking, this is going to be vague, somewhere before today, and I saw a young kid just get interested in this thing I don't remember anything about, but it struck me that I saw a person that was maybe 3 at the eldest have this grand inquisition into whatever this thing was. And it again reminded me that heart of humanity is in every person, regardless of age. And when you sit in your world and you forget that that's true, and to your point on parenting, when you don't consider that in your approach, you have discounted the very essence of what you intend to discipline. And it's very difficult to see how that would be effective. And I guess where does that actually turn into some kind of practicality and instead of some vague statement? When you're right there in the moment, remember this is you, the parent, and you, your child. Be human about it. Put a role on top. Put a my and yours on top of it. My child, your father. Right? Turn it into a very personable and personal experience. And it changes the way you affect in that situation. I went from just this because I said so mentality to I know who you are and I know what you need in this moment. And I'm trying to find out what your intent was, and we'll move on from there.
Right, because it's a discipline, not just punishment. Discipline is where we get the word disciple, and that's what we're trying to do to our children, is disciple them through discipline, not because I said so, because we're also reflecting God and who God is as a father through how we parent. So one of the things I do like about the first book is we're kind of navigating it through without knowing we were neurodiverse, right? So I'm like, here's what I'm thinking, and here's what's really going on now that we know Dan's on the spectrum. So there's a lot of hindsight learning in there. So that one's at www.christianneurodiversefamilies.com. Uniquely Us, you can watch the countdown at www.christianneurodiversemarriage.com. But as we're ending, tell us a little bit about the things that you're working on now. I know you're working on a podcast, and do you have room in your summer groups?
Yeah, so we are working on launching Neuro FM, the least depressing neurodivergent podcast in the world.
Love your radio voice.
And that should be out soon. Yeah, so we're working on that. just to kind of bring some positivity to what can be a very
Mhm.
dark place, which is the neurodiverse experience from all sides of it. We do have some
And the kids
space.
are on that.
Oh, it's a family
Yeah.
thing. So the kids are going to be sharing their perspective on their therapies and their experience about being neurodivergent kids. We're going to share our perspectives on being a neurodivergent couple. I'll be sharing my experiences as a later in life diagnosed autistic. So
Mhm.
a lot of funsies going on. We'll have some experts coming on, so people will get smarter because they won't just have to listen to me droning on. So it's going to be a really good time.
Yeah.
So we got that launching here. We do have rooms in the groups, both plural. Why not? So there is room in the group. Uh, Still have some space for one-on-one,
Mhm.
and we're working on some books and some literature, some online courses, and some resources. I
Yeah.
think the blanket statement is we're working on resources.
There you go.
All right. So how do people find you? What's your website?
Website our neurofam neurofam.com.
Mhm.
All right. So if you want to,
That's different than the pirate version. Our neuro.
Right? No R.
Yeah.
It's OUR. It would be
Our.
our
our
neurofam.com.
so a different perspective of marriage and family, because me and the pirate here, we're in the empty nester place. So that's going to be a great space to invite your kids and the family and talk about neurodiverse family stuff. So I'm excited to hear. And I think Jeremy's very fun and entertaining. So I can't wait until that happens. So I get some boxes sometimes that make me snort. So I'm like, and then I can wait. In 5 seconds more, I'm going to get another autistic explanation after that box. That is my favorite, when I get the explanation of the box that I just got. So as we end today, we like to remind you, and it's written on the screen this time, babe, there is hope for your future, and
You're not alone on your journey. Exclamation point.
Exclamation.